Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, and we're talking a little bit about Alex Nedeljkovic, and why wouldn't we? He is the singular sole force between the Penguins' pipes over this 9-game stretch, the goaltender of record in a 6-0-3 run, and I think twice now, back-to-back weeks, ending up on the NHL's social media Goaltenders of the Week graphic. So good on Alex Nedeljkovic for that, but is he joining Penguins lore? This comes via the mind of one Nick Horwat. He texted me this morning and said, the Penguins, they have a long list of unsuspecting goaltenders making major contributions in pretty big runs for the Penguins. Now you go down through the list and it is certainly a collection of names, Horwat. I mean, you start as early as, and you can go back further than this, but this is as far back as we're going to go. You can go with Frankie Pietrangelo and the save in 1991. You can go Ken Reggett in 1996, his 7-2 run to the Penguins Eastern Conference Finals against the Florida Panthers, and as Horwat likes to mention,
the old 4 overtime game that he didn't even start, and I think that's the highlight of that run.
It is. So I got Kenny Reggett in 96. You got Johan Hedberg in 2001, Tomas Vokoun in 2013. You can go Mr. Game 1 himself, Jeff Zadkoff in 2016. You could throw Matt Murray in there in 2016 as well, absolutely. I would say. And then Louis Domingue as recently as 2022. And I don't know if you want to throw it in there, last game of the season. I can't remember his name. Maxime Lagacé shutting out the Buffalo Sabres in a meaningless game, the last game of the season. You could throw that in there as a footnote. But again, long list, long lineage of unsuspecting or backup goaltenders straight up coming in and making an impact and writing their names into the Penguins history books to the tune of Frankie Pietrangelo was a backup.
Yeah.
We're 30 plus years later, and that's a household name in a lot of Penguins fan base houses because he made the save.
Yeah. It's
interesting.
That's where it all kind of starts. And when it comes down to it, it's Alex Nedeljkovic has the opportunity to kind of write his name into that history book because there's the regular season run to this of getting the team into the playoffs. I don't remember exactly obviously I don't remember, but I didn't look deep enough into the Johan Hedberg thing where he was 6-1-1, I think, in his first, I think he played 9 games to end that season, but went 6-1-1 or 7-1-1 something. But it was the playoff run that got his name noticed in Penguins history. For what it's worth, that's kind of what Nedeljkovic is shooting for. That hot, not start to his career or start to the season, whatever it may be, but just that hot stretch at the end of the year to force this team into the playoffs and then go from there. I'd say getting into the postseason is enough for this story to be written. Whenever we were discussing a couple years ago the Louis Domingue situation, I don't think Domingue reaches that level just because of that he didn't win. He got put in and got that awesome game 1, but that's kind of where the story ended. Yeah, he got 2 more wins out of that, but he wasn't great in one of them. And if he was able to shut the door and get them out of the first round, maybe we have that discussion. But I'd say when it comes to these names, I like the idea of Maxime Lagacé being the footnote. I'd say you put Louis Domingue as the footnote as well because and you don't want to add one more dash. Alex Nedeljkovic needs to finish off this story to not be a footnote as well. This run is great, but we've seen goalies go on really hot runs and not do anything. I always go back to Andrew Hammond with the Senators. Fantastic run. I think he got them into the postseason, but then did nothing and hasn't done much with his career since. So he's got to force this team into the playoffs and to put his name up with, again, these aren't Hall of Famers we're discussing here, but incredible names and stuff of legend in this franchise.
If you said that list of names, Pietrangelo, Reggett, Hedberg, Vokoun, Zadkoff, Murray, Domingue, in Pittsburgh, there's I'll say 60% chance that somebody's going to know all of those names. Simply because, they all stepped up big time for the local hockey club. Now, again, does Alex Nedeljkovic finish the story per se? That's going to be the biggest judgment of whether or not and where he falls on this list. But I would say, if we're putting Maxime Lagacé on this list, 100%, he's already made the list, but where he falls on that list, whether he is a footnote, like you mentioned, or he's actually up there, that's going to be determined on how the next 4 games play out, not just in Pittsburgh, but on Long Island, in the nation's capital, in DC. I guess you could throw Philly in there. They've now lost 8 straight. It seems like they are on the mat and probably staying there. Yeah. But I mean, where would you rank these, or where would you rank him among these goaltenders and their feats if he pulls it off and just gets them into the playoffs? Let's start there.
Yeah, because it is a moving scale. If he gets them into the playoffs and then pushes them further, then suddenly that legend grows. Yeah. As of right now, though, if it just get him in, I think Murray is still number 1, considering he came in and won the damn cup in his rookie season.
Yeah.
Twice in his rookie season. The 17 run, though, I don't think we count as much because he was there all season, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But definitely the 16 run for Murray has to be first.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to remember the rest of the list here. Thomas Vokoun was interesting because he got them pretty far, right? He took over for a struggling Fleury and got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. It wasn't pretty far. They got swept, but it was.
But that wasn't on him, though. I mean, the offense evaporated. That was the Iginla year. That was the Morrow year. And they got shut out, I think, in 2 or 3 of those games, including a 2-0 victory or a 2-1 loss in game 4. That was not on Vokoun in that one.
Yeah, and what ended up being the final games of his career, by the way. He went out, I mean, aside from that series, went out on a pretty high note. And Hedberg, for him, it was starting his career. It was the first 7 games, like I mentioned, and then I believe, I forget how far they got, but there was that series win in Buffalo that they weren't supposed to win. And I think they won another one after that even. The 0-1 year is escaping me entirely, but everyone remembers Darius Kasparaitis' goal. Mm-hmm. And you have to remember that Johan Hedberg out-goalied, for the most part, Dominik Hasek.
Yeah.
So I'd say that one could fall into that number 3 slot. And then Alex Nedeljkovic, if he's able to finish this off, will start at the 4 and only go up from there, depending on how the playoffs turn out.
Yeah, I would put Kenny Reggett in 96, 1A, 1B with Tomas Vokoun for second.
Okay, yeah.
And then I think, like you mentioned, I think it would be Hedberg, Nedeljkovic based on how it goes after that. Yeah. But if he gets into the playoffs, he's automatically top 5. He's above, Zadkov. He's above Domingue. Yeah. He's above Pietrangelo because, I mean, you look at Domingue and Pietrangelo, they were very small sample sizes, what those guys contributed. Not to say that it's not, massive in Frankie Pietrangelo's sense, what he was able to do against the New Jersey Devils back in 91. But I would say, yeah, Murray's the clear-cut number 1. You take over from a Hall of Famer and you go on to win a Stanley Cup in your rookie year, your actual rookie year, not just rookie year part 1. Yeah. You're far and away. There's a chasm between him and number 2 and number 3. But yeah, number 2 and number 3, Vokoun definitely, and Reggett definitely. You get this team to a conference final being a backup, and again, both of them stepping in for Hall of Fame goaltenders. I mean, Vokoun was Fleury, Reggett was Tommy Barrasso.
Yeah.
So, I think that what Nedeljkovic is doing right now is something that won't easily be forgotten, but especially by a fan base that has always looked at these interesting scenarios of backup goaltenders stepping up and being huge in spring. And that's always the biggest thing. When you do it in the springtime, people tend to remember. Alex Nedeljkovic is doing this in the springtime, and if he finishes this story, if he goes all Cody Rhodes on it, if he gets these last 4 games and the Penguins either win them or just skate by into the playoffs, he's going to solidify his name. Even in 1 year with the organization, he's going to solidify his name in, as you mentioned, in Penguins lore. It's not... It's not like some crazy, we're going to hang our hat, we're going to hang a banner. The Penguins are not that type of organization. But he'll be in the chapter of backup goaltenders really getting on players or fans' good side. I mean, you see Hedberg jerseys in PPG Paints Arena on a nightly basis. I don't know if I've seen any Vokoun ones or Zadkov.
I own one if you need me to pull it out.
I guess that's true. Oh, Jesus. I've not seen the Vokoun.
It's signed. I got it a couple years ago. From whenever the Penguins, it was probably during the pandemic, whenever the Penguins were doing their random locker clean out sale, and they just had it available for, I think, $100 or something cheap. And I went, I'll buy an autographed Thomas Vokoun jersey.
Well, I stand corrected. Somebody does have a Vokoun jersey, and he is right, Nick. So I found it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this story plays out, but it's certainly been a fairy tale to this point for Alex Nedeljkovic and really for the Penguins to be able to get back into this position, considering where they were at just 2.5 weeks ago.